diarrhea is not a life-threatening event, okay, because it was not life-threatening when it happened, okay. So next coming, so this is very important point. This is given in the ICH guidance. If you can go through, you can just take out that line, what is life-threatening. So be thorough with that definition of life-threatening. You might be asked about this, okay. Then coming to hospitalization or prolongation of hospitalization. Now, we will discuss the same example I had given. The patient, after taking the drug, had experienced diarrhea. He was dehydrated, so he was hospitalized. Okay. During hospitalization, okay, he was diagnosed to have an acute renal failure. Okay. And for that acute renal failure, he was treated for some time. Like he had to stay in the hospital for 2 more days to get treated for the acute renal failure. So how will you fit in the seriousness criteria for two events? I have given you two events now. The first one is diarrhea, the second one is acute renal failure. So what are the seriousness criteria for both? Is anybody for diarrhea? What is the seriousness criteria?
I think diarrhea will be non-serious
Why non-serious?
because at the time it happened, um, it did not fit into any criteria.
No, I told you like diarrhea. The patient had diarrhea, he got dehydrated, then he was hospitalized immediately.
Nice. Okay, then it's a serious. It's a
Yes,
serious
so
thing.
it is serious. So because he was hospitalized for diarrhea, diarrhea is also, so obviously, though dehydration was the leading thing, the diarrhea obviously caused the patient to get hospitalized. So the seriousness criteria is hospitalization.
Hospitalization.
Okay. So what about the acute kidney injury?
It is also, it's a prolongation of
Prolonged
hospital.
Very good.
Prolonged.
Prolongation of
Prolonged.
hospitalization, because we have an evidence that for the acute kidney injury had to stay 2 extra days for the treatment. So it had prolonged the hospitalization. So when you're working in Argus, you can just say the seriousness criteria is hospitalization. But to categorize it more, there are specific points in the Argus, like in the seriousness criteria, if you see, there are different checkbox. One will be for fatal. So you'll have to check whichever is your seriousness criteria in Argus, fatal, life-threatening. And in hospitalization, there'll be two checkbox, hospitalization or prolongation of hospitalization. If you're very specific that you know that this event called prolongation, then you can check prolongation of hospitalization. Otherwise, if you're not sure, okay, you're just given a report, the patient had diarrhea, dehydration, then the patient had acute renal injury. They did not mention anything that the subject had to spend 2 extra days in the hospital for acute renal injury or failure. Then you are not sure whether it caused prolongation or not. Okay. So in that case, you can just check hospitalization, and then you can query. If it is a post-marketing case, you can query the physician, whoever is taking care of the patient, or if it is a clinical trial, you can query the investigator or the sub-investigators, asking them, did this event cause prolongation of hospitalization or not, to be very specific. Okay. So the next seriousness criteria is persistent or significant disability or incapacity. Okay. So if an event has caused persistent or significant disability or incapacity, then it will have the seriousness criteria. The example is stroke. Like patient had experienced a stroke, which is an event. Okay. And he was hospitalized for stroke. Okay. He was treated and he got discharged. Okay. After discharged, he did not completely recovered. He recovered with sequelae. The sequelae being his right upper and lower limb. Okay, so kind of hemiplegia. He had hemiplegia. So he had the spastic paralysis. So he could not use his right upper and lower limb properly, which means his gait is not correct, and his upper, he cannot use his right upper limb. So which means the stroke has caused persistent or significant